This program is supported by the Dorothy Cheung Memorial Fund. The Dorothy Cheung Memorial Fund was established through the generous donation of NTU Associate Professor John Cheung in memory of his wife Dorothy. Professor Cheung entrusted a significant portion of his savings to the NTU community to carry on in perpetuity the celebration of the arts and the nurturing and transforming of NTU students in and through their academic and cultural pursuits.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Arts Community Open Talk. My name is Hui Yan, producer at Singapore Community Radio, and today I'm going to be your host because for this series, we are going to be talking to creators and artists from different disciplines to understand more about their journeys and processes so far. So this is going to be a live chat, so if any time you have any questions, feel free to plonk it into the Twitch channel and we will get to that at the end when we have time. So today, our guest is Felix Nai, an artist prolific in the art of indigo dyeing. So after graduating as a fashion student from Temasek Poly, he went on to travel the world for 3 years as a cabin crew before moving to Tokushima, Japan. So over there, he spent 2 years learning the art of indigo farming and fabric dyeing, and now he's back in Singapore to share this particular craft with us and also to really explore more about how we can do sustainable and conscious living through creative ways of reducing waste. So he actually started a program called Good Riddance, where he's been conducting workshops and also fabric dyeing services for us to repurpose, old apparels and fabric items. So hello Felix.
Thank you, everybody.
How are you today?
I'm good. Feeling a bit nervous, but it's good.
Yeah, it's both of our first live stream, so we're a bit nervous right now. But do you want to introduce yourself in your own words?
Hi, everybody. My name is Felix. As you can see, I'm the guy who's walking around Singapore with a pair of blue hands. I think Hui Yan has already done a very elaborated description about myself, so nothing much for me to talk about except for this to show you.
So how was your experience as a fashion student in TP?
My experience as a fashion student, I feel that I never regretted my time as a fashion student. It is what it has roped me into the arts and design scene, and then to be able to explore a lot of possibilities and a lot of storytelling involved. And then fortunately for me, it was through the lens of mainly an organic form, which is the human body, and also textiles.
So when do you decide to move from being a fashion student to indigo dyeing? Because it's quite a specific craft in itself, right?
When I first graduated, I quickly entered the National Service, and that was also the time that I had to do of self-reflection. And then that was when I realized that the fashion industry is producing a lot of waste for me, and it didn't quite resonate with what I want to do with the rest of my life. And that was when I was also reading kinfolk magazines, and then one of the issues featured Japanese craft. They had a lady holding up a naturally dyed indigo product that was very beautiful. I kept it at the back of my head. Then I thought maybe I should do something else other than just fashion. So I was looking into that. And fortunately, I get to spend some time in Germany doing my training. And one of a night, doing my night duty, I looked up in the sky and I saw a beautiful night sky. It touched me because I get to see the million stars out there, and I could see galaxies with minimal pollution around. I was very touched by it. It felt liberating. So really once in a very long time, it felt good. And then I told myself that if I were to feel low in my life again, I want to be able to recreate this night sky I saw in Germany. And that's how I quickly connected it with Indigo. And it hasn't stopped since then.
Okay. Did you know about indigo dyeing before then?
So when I was in NS, I also found out that there was a group of Japanese artisans who is setting up an indigo workshop in Singapore, just for a short period of time. And then that's when I signed up to understand more about it. It was only one session, so it was very brief, but it was when I told myself, I think this is it, let's try it out. So I started pursuing that. And then being a cabin crew is like a detour I feel that I need to take. But there were a lot of good takeaways from it. Like I felt that I learned a lot of valuable skills from the job, more than what I have expected.
Right.
And I only knew that when I got to Japan and started working there.
Then how was the journey like moving to Japan? Because you essentially uprooted your life to move there into an indigo farm, right? Like how was the process like?
It was a very long time. It took me 5 years to prepare myself to go over, and then eventually when I was there, there was a lot of ups and downs, definitely. Most part of it I overcome it with the kind of skills that I learned from my time in SQ, which I'm very, very grateful for. And yeah, the rest were actually supported by the local community over there. So working in Japan is very different. The work culture is very, very different from Singapore. The main difference is, say, the language, and the culture itself. It's very vague. So in Japanese, we call it the aimai.
Aimai.
So it's like if you spell it out in the Romanji letters, it's A-I-M-A-I.
Aimai.
Aimai.
It doesn't mean the same thing.
No, it's very vague. I feel that sometimes I have difficulties trying to express my emotions in terms of the fact that I cannot find a right word for it in Japanese. And also, sometimes I find myself unable to find a situation to express how I feel. So that was like one of the few downs that I have. But the local community showed me showered me with a lot of kindness and support, and they helped me through.
Right.
And yeah, they are like family to me now.
And you mentioned they're a second home, right?
Like my second home, yes.
But how do you decide which studio to sort of dive into? Because in Japan, there's quite a lot of different indigo farms, right?
So initially, I didn't wanted to just do indigo in Japan. Everything was just coincidental that I met this group of Japanese artisans who was hosting a workshop in Singapore, and then everything branched out from there. So during my time as a cabin crew, during my holidays, I would fly over, and then I did a workshop in Japan, and I asked for permission to stay a little longer in the farm just to see how they function on a day-to-day basis. I couldn't stay there for a very long time, but when I saw the indigo dye bed, I was like, yeah, this is it. And then like I cannot stop but want to come back again. So on my other holidays, I'll come back during different seasons to help them out, to volunteer with them in the farm. And then I feel that I learned a lot more from there. And then once I felt that I was ready, then I popped the golden question if I can go moved over permanently.
And it was a easy yes.
Yeah, because I went over a couple of times, and then fortunately I built like a good rapport with them, good enough for me to ask for the job.
That's nice. That's nice. So before we dive deeper into indigo dyeing, right? For people who have no idea what that is, could you explain to us what it is?
So it's a color extracted from a plant, if you don't already know. It's the leaves, from the leaves to be exact. So they look like this on my hands.
A YouTube vlogger, I think.
And then, it takes 1 year of process to arrive at the ingredient indigo. So from a plant, what we do is we cultivate the soil, we germinate the seeds, we grow them, we transplant to the field when they are mature, and then we take care of them until they're ready to be harvested. We harvest them, we dry them up, and then we keep them aside until the fermentation day. So we bring everything out. So there's a special process of fermenting or composting it to preserve it. And then they will arrive at this ingredient. So it takes 1 year to make this in Japan. And then after which, it'll be the job of extracting the colors from that ingredient.
Right.
So extracting the colors from the ingredient takes another 2 weeks. So actually, the dye vat that you see, this solution takes 1 year and 2 weeks to make.
Wow. How is it different from normal dye?
So for natural dye, when you put all the ingredients together, they don't produce blue immediately. So the craft is in growing the color. So it's like a baby, it's like a human being. There's an incubation phase, just like the pregnancy phase. You give it the right condition for it to grow, and then they will develop colors for you. Something that cannot be compared to chemical dye is that chemical dye is very efficient, very cheap, and you can produce consistency very quickly. It's very consistent in that sense. And then natural indigo is very much like a human. So when you overwork them, they need their day off. They need to take leave.
Yeah.
You need to give them time to recuperate and
Right.
before you use them again. And the fact that like everything needs to be hand dyed is also one specialty of natural indigo, I guess.
So you can't actually machine dye using indigo?
It's difficult to engineer the natural dyeing process because of the fact that nature is involved in it.
So you have to, because I remember going to a workshop and there was a lot of like dyeing and then taking it out to oxidize, that process of it.
So that process is very difficult to be replaced by a machine because you need to know where to do it, and then there are all the finer details which a machine can't do.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot of... Oh, a lot of people are saying hi. Do you want to say? Hi, everyone. So what is indigo dye commonly used for, and why is it such an undying trait in a way? Because it takes so much effort, and with technology and everything, why is it still so prolific? Yeah.
I think people can still appreciate the color indigo, just that when you look at an indigo dyed product, actually you don't know whether is it chemically dyed or indigo, natural indigo, until you use them. Then over time you get to see it. So people say that natural indigo actually fits well with time, fits with your own use. So your personality will show in your own product. That's the beauty of it. Other than that, sorry, what will you say again?
Why is indigo dyeing still so popular now?
I see. The most common application these days, closest to us, is denim jeans. So in the past, denim jeans were all naturally dyed until chemical dye came in, and then it was quickly replaced. And most of the denim jeans we find these days are all chemically dyed.
So it actually doesn't last as long as...
There's very different like care to it. So then in Instagram that I do, then we also highlight the fact that like, do we actually wash our products? That's really one big question that people always ask.
So should we or should we not wash indigo products?
Like say your chemically dyed one, people usually say you not to wash them. And then you fit with your use in the sense that you get the marks from there. And then there are people who wash it while wearing it in a bathtub, so that it shrinks to your own size.
Right, like raw jeans.
Correct.
Right.
Like the raw jeans. And then for naturally dyed indigo product, you retain the color by washing them, because you want to get rid of this film that forms, the scum that forms over time. So by washing it, you actually get a brighter color in there, so to retain the richness of the color. But as all things, when you use and you wash them, obviously it fades. Nothing is permanent that way.
It's interesting. It's such a natural way of using a product and sort of understanding its properties in that sense. And I think what's really interesting about your journey is that you not only learn about the indigo dyeing part of it, but you also went through the whole farming, you sold the land, you learn about the fertilizer and all of it, right? So what is it about this process that inspired you so much about sustainability? Because you're very much championing that now that you're back in Singapore.
I think, firstly, the big S word is out.
Okay, so what do we say?
So, in Indigo, through the lens of Indigo, it brought me to topics that I never thought I would explore. Things like fermentation, one of the oldest preservation method, and then we have water quality, we have soil conditions, and then there's so much to learn from it. But the most important thing is, during the time that I was practicing Indigo, I was exposed to a community of people. People who is made out of people who are like farm-to-table restaurant owners who bring beautiful stories to the table to their audience. There are like animal farm people who are ethical farmers, and also how they're sustainable in this by using like waste products to bring up the animals. And then there's a zero waste town near where I was at, Kamikatsu, and then tea farmers that are in there, and then like fabrics that are made up of cedar wood. There's so many examples, but they are the people who we come together, we gel, we melt in this elementary school nearby. So all of us with the same cause in our own ways actually come together to program something for the kids, to let them understand the full process of production and to show them how is it like to arrive at a certain thing that they are using these days, which I think there's a value in it.
Right.
And because of this program, that I realized that sustainability is not just a word, it's a feeling. And during my hardest time, these were also the community of people who helped me, who showered me with kindness and also supported me. That I feel that, actually, sustainability is not just, it is definitely about the fight against climate change. But it's also about the food, the things that we put in our body. It's a lot of emotions, empathy, equality, just a well-being. Like how to stay alive as living things. That's also the reason why in my workshop that I introduced this segment of sensing sustainability. So I try to avoid this big S word completely. But how to make you feel what I felt, what I experienced in the course of the workshop.
So in a way, because sustainability is really, it's a bit like a buzzword, but also a dirty word right now, because everyone's talking about it, but everyone has their own definition of it, right? So would you say for you it's more of a lifestyle than a consumer choice?
Okay, first thing, all in all, I feel that we can only arrive at sustainability by showing appreciation for every step of the process. So with that, sustainability is not something we do because we are told to, because we felt it and we understand it. That's why it's a conscious decision that we want to make.
Right.
So in that, then I always talk about the user's responsibility. And that we have very wonderful makers out there. The makers are doing their best to ensure longevity in their products. But as users, do we think that we assume the responsibility to use the products that we buy up to its life expectancy? And when we can't do it any longer, what do we do about it? And also, do we actually follow through the proper waste disposal? I'm not 100% sustainable in that. I'm still learning. But this is the feelings, or these are the things that I hope people can take out of, at least to want to do it, who know that there's an option out there for them to do it. And that, like, even in 3 hours that we have evolved to 5.
Yeah.
So,
it's
like,
so hard to keep up.
Yeah. But we have become refuse, reduce, reuse. If we can't repair before we recycle.
Yeah, but that's so important about understanding the journey of a product before it comes to your table. And I think that's the beauty of Indigo Dye in a way, because you almost see it from literally a seed to the product on your table. So how has that reception been for you in Singapore, now that you've brought it to Singapore?
In terms of the workshop wise, I feel that the awareness is slowly building up. I'm getting a more eclectic group of people from all walks of life, and that the best part is during the discussion or when they share with me their own background or their knowledge about things. And then it's just like a sparring session, but it's good. I liked it a lot. And then, like, for the dye service wise, I'm getting more responses in a sense. It's slow, definitely, but the whole idea of it is to know or to understand that, before I throw things up, maybe I can repair them. That I have people coming to me and asking if they can dye this and that because they got this problem and that problem with their fabric items, for example, which I feel that is the biggest step. To actually question yourself, how should I repair before you throw something away? It may not be indigo dye, it can be something else, but that's the biggest question I want them to think about.
Yeah, because that was something that I really took home with me also when we first met, when you said Good Riddance was not just a workshop sort of platform, but you were also providing dyeing services for people. So to me, I have too much clothes, but sometimes when I have old clothes, I don't really think about what to do when a white t-shirt is being yellow or what. You just sort of throw it away or you donate it. Alright, so I think this process of actually provoking, intriguing people to think about how to give it a second life is super interesting. Yeah, because I know you're trying to bring in the whole indigo process, not just the dyeing itself to Singapore, but also the planting of it so far, right? So how has that gone?
So by bringing
someone's
this
asking,
whole
can we
craft-
grow indigo plant at home?
Yeah, you can. So I'm still testing them out at the moment. So by introducing this into Singapore, is also about localizing my ingredients responsibly. And what I'm doing now is I'm planting them. At the moment, my indigo plant is downstairs my house at a community plot. It's a very small plot of land. Don't come and steal my plants. Not yet. So they're about this size now, about 20 cm high. They thrive in hot and humid weather. So they should work out fine here. But maybe just the flowering and the seeding part that only when the conditions are more controlled, maybe then that is the only time they will flower or produce seed in Singapore. Other than that, the biggest question is also about fermenting it here in Singapore because of the humidity and the temperature that we have. Fermenting bacteria works very fast.
So it's a heightened process.
Yeah, correct. It may be heightened, and then how to control it, then that should be the craft. But then there is a little question after that.
And you're also sourcing like other parts of the ingredients from local makers as well, right?
I'm trying to close my own loops of production as much as I can, one by one. Wood ash is one of the main ingredient in the natural indigo dye that. So what I'm exploring is, say, like with Roger and Sons, we mentioned that to use local wood, the local tree project, to use the offcuts for, say, my workshop, or when the offcuts cannot be used anymore, can it be brought somewhere else to be fired, and then you get as much out from it, and then the ashes that you get, I will use them to make the alkaline water that I need before we return it back to ground. So as before we throw them out, how many times can we use it and extract things out from it before we return them to the ground?
Wow. And then it becomes fertilizer again, which is a whole ecosystem, right? So Roger and Sons, for those who are unfamiliar, it's a local carpentry woodworking studio. So they are super interesting also because they work with local wood and they do research and ways about repurposing it into furniture and everyday objects. So I like that you're actually trying to create your own community in that sense of people to feed into this lifestyle. Yeah.
I think when everybody work with nature, we are very much connected. You realize that we are very much connected. I think maybe it's because we have stopped working with nature. We try to ban nature. That then we don't find a reason in certain things.
Yeah, that is true. Someone's asking, do you think millennials and Zoomers what would you think their reception would be towards indigo dyeing as a sustainable alternative? Because people like fast fashion. There's actually a trend about thrift findings right now, right? Vintage finds and all of that. Like, how do you think indigo sort of fits into that whole?
Back in school, people always say that like fashion is evolutionary, not revolutionary. So things comes back again, and then sometimes we take inspiration from the past, and I think that's how we can gel everything back again. And then maybe there's a time where repurposing will have more value in things that sometimes you don't get that style of product without time. It needs to age well for you to appreciate, I guess.
So do you think the time is now for indigo to sort of find its own space in Singapore? Because it's fairly new here. I think people, you generally know about indigo dyeing, but you don't know much about it until you go for workshops by yourself or other makers out there, right? So
I think it's a good time, or I feel that maybe it's coming back, which is a good thing, and hopefully it will for a longer time.
Okay. So what are your plans next? Like what's next for Good Riddance, or what do you have in mind to continue building this craft locally?
I'm looking into integrating this craft into different platforms. So one of which, I don't know if you heard of them, is the Ground Up Initiative. I feel that they have spent many years, a lot of effort put into nature placemaking, and that this will just integrate very well with them because of the community and the space that they have already built. We are working towards making something with them, and then we can see how it goes from there. So there will be a time where, which is what I wish to. So in the workshop that we have like presentation slides and all, I want to replace these slides with things that are more physical, to be able to see the actual plant, to feel the soil, to think about composting, and then all this will happen. And then it's not just one fixed platform, but actually different
touch points,
different
crafts.
Spaces in Singapore can create their own small community in their circle. It doesn't have to be restricted to just one. And that we should explore into these things, just keeping it open.
Right. So you're really expanding out of fashion in a sense.
Yes, and then good riddance is not only just about Indigo. I feel that maybe hopefully one day it can be a platform where then people can use to bridge, to make their own, to close their own loops of production. So as I uncover different stories to sense sustainability with local stories, maybe during the process that we can find out that, actually somebody's waste stream can be somebody else's treasure. And then that's when we can close the loops of cycle, like the production circle, one by one.
Right. Because a lot of what you're saying is sort of from a maker's point of view, right? So if as a consumer, as a user, I also want to learn more about closing that loop, right? Where can I know more about these things? Or basically, where can I learn more about how I can make an impact in that sense?
I think for me is I go out and then I talk to different people and then I learn more about that. I mean, you can always see what I present on Good Riddance platform. So I'll try to curate some things that I found. Maybe you don't have the time to go and see them, then that's where I can put them up for you, more curated, and then you can see it from there. But I'm pretty sure everybody's very connected now. Like, information is so fast these days that it comes to you.
Yeah.
Even before you can
Process it.
try to find something. But take the time to process. I think then that's the most important thing.
I guess so. In a way, it's about not being a bit more curious, I think, about your product you're using and the ecosystem that it sort of comes from.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get a deeper learning on, you know, if I get something from Good Riddance, who does Good Riddance work with? You know, how does he do it, and all of that. Which I think is something that is very apparent right now in our generation. You know, really closing that knowledge loop in a way, in that sense. Okay, so I'm going to get 2 questions from the chat right now. So someone's asking, like, how long does it take to produce an indigo dyed product? Like a kerchief? Is that how you pronounce it? Kerchief? Handkerchief. Like a I don't know lah. But how does it take?
For an indigo dyed product, it depends on the pattern that you do, the shade that you want to get. Sometimes in a day you can get it done. Sometimes it takes as long as 2 weeks, depending on how complex the design is.
You brought some samples, right? For your
yeah. Oh, right. So I dyed. Okay, maybe this will. So I repurposed one of my t-shirt. It used to be a pink t-shirt.
Oh, you can't even see the pink anymore.
Yeah. Maybe at the back.
It's very nice.
So I really wanted to retain the integrity of the print and the color itself. So I stitched them up to do a resist, and then I dyed them out.
It's very cool.
So this is one of the things. The other works belongs to somebody else that I did for them, so I have nothing to show you. But this took about a week because it took me some time to stitch them up, and then to block them out, and then to dye them eventually. But the dyeing takes a day just to finish.
Right.
But it's more of the preparation work that goes to it.
Right. And how long does the dye stay on your hand?
The dye on my hand usually washes off in 2 or 3 days completely. It's the fingernails that usually stays for a little longer, maybe 2 weeks. But then because I dye almost every day, or like I take samples every day, that my fingernails are perpetually blue.
Do people look at you funny? They go like, oh, what is guy?
I think it's a good conversation starter. I would hope that one day, people, when they see this, they know that, oh, this is natural indigo. Because the reason why I kept them blue is also, as the maker, if I don't show you that I'm using natural indigo, and this is the evidence that I'm using natural indigo, then I don't think you'll be convinced.
That's safe for your hands
correct.
and all that.
That is safe to touch, and that it's not chemical.
Right. That's true. It's a symbol.
Yes. Somehow.
Okay, we're just going to close off the loop because we're almost running out of time. So just to round off everything, like if someone really, like someone new, someone young to this whole experience wants to jump into something like yourself, go into sustainable living or to learn a particular craft that they weren't as familiar with, right? Do you have any advice for them on that?
I think it's good to stay open-minded. To me, a craft, it will never be a craft if it's not, if it cannot be assessed by the common people. And when it's assessed it's something being assessed by the common people that you will eventually find it to be a very interconnected platform. That it's more connected than you thought it would be. Right. So being open actually helps you to learn about more things through the lens of your own craft, I guess.
Oh, that's so poetic. Yeah. Okay, for everyone out there, if you're attempting to try something new, go for it. Don't be worried. We're really happy to talk to Felix today. I think I learned a lot about Indigo dyeing, but follow him on Good Riddance. He does a lot of workshops starting from March onwards, and he's also constantly doing new dyes and new services for people and collaborations with everyone else. So for the Arts Community Open Talk, we will be back in March with 4 more sessions with a musician, a ceramic artist, a creative guy who does illustration and sells vintage clothes, named called Dion, and also a filmmaker. So there's really quite a diverse plethora of people we're going to talk to. So we will see you back. Thank you.
Bye.